I hope you found the biscuits. I didn't know about the biscuits. I never got that memo. That's probably my wife's fault, actually, to be fair. Tell her I had the salad, if she asks. I've just been out to have a look at the pitch. It looks in really good nick. I think that's the right expression. I put a key in the pitch to see whether there was any turn. There isn't. So I would recommend England bowl first when they get here. I think it's next week or the week after. But yeah, what the hell do I know? But it looks amazing. It's really quite fascinating, actually. I think to be in it's almost stranger to be in an empty stadium than it is a full one. You get a different sense of the scale of it. So for any cricket fans out there's still some tickets available, so they told me outside, so please do come along. Anyway, enough of the marketing nonsense. It's time for our Meet the Customers panel, which, if I do that, not that, hang on, bear with caller. Why has that gone off? There we go, do that. There we go. So we have 3 contestants on this morning's game show, all about stuff that they don't know what I'm going to say, which is going to be interesting to see how they react. We would invite questions from yourselves as well. I've got a number, some that have been sent in, some that we made up during the coffee break just to test these guys' knowledge. But I'm going to start by, there's a microphone down there, gentlemen. There's one down there, sir. I'm going to ask you, contestant number 1, what's your name and where do you come from? Oh, is that up? Hang on 1 second, caller. The handheld's up, Adam. Yeah, go for it.
My name is Matthew Kay. I'm a software engineer at Bluetree Group. We are a web-to-print company. We have a few different brands. Instant Print, Route 1 Print. We offer a direct connect service as well. And a few years ago, we acquired a book printing company called 𝐝𝐞𝐦𝐨 Press.
Excellent, thank you very much. Contestant number 2.
Hiya, I'm Sam Wallace. I've got a kind of made up job title of Technology Development Specialist at MacroArt, and we are a sort of wide format graphics branding solutions print company basically up in Cambridgeshire. I basically manage our Switch workflows and sort of build some custom scripts, things like that.
Talk about job descriptions made up. Welcome to my world. Contestant number 3, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Roger White. I'm the creative and technical lead at FE Burman, who are not too far down the road. We're about 15-20 minutes down the road, not too far from London Bridge. We're a creative print service. We deal hand in hand with clients to find solutions to problems that they have. Personally, I'm responsible for a lot of the creative jobs that come into the building. If there's a workflow that we're unsure of or issues with the job, they normally land on my plate. I also oversee web to print and switch flows also.
And same day delivery?
Supposedly.
We'll all find out at the same time anyway. So thank you, gentlemen. Welcome to the stage. As I said, we've had a few questions that have been sent in and a few that we've formulated ourselves. But I'd rather this sort of proceed, like, not sort of like shine a light in your face and ask you a question and there's the answer. It's much better, I think, that these are a bit more conversational. So if there's anything that you want to say in response to what any of you have said, don't feel, there's no formalities, right? We're not at school. I said that earlier on. You can do what you like. No running in the corridors, though, obviously. So I'm going to start and kick you off with an easy one, I think, hopefully about workflow automation, something that's obviously key to today's event. What challenges did you face in your businesses that led you down the path of automation? You've got a microphone. Bad choice. You go first.
So we used to have a bit of a bottleneck in our studio. Lots of orders coming in, lots of people waiting for proofs. Those proofs need to get approved in time to get into production. So really, everybody was waiting for the studio the whole time. By automating the proofing process, really, you can speed that whole process up and just get things into production faster. So we've now moved the bottleneck to other departments.
Well, that was going to be my next question before Matthew answers. It's the classic, isn't it, that you've solved your problem, but it's now somebody else's problem. What does that problem actually look like?
It's more about sort of workforce then, I think, getting enough people in sort of dispatch packing areas of the business, really, and processing things through there quickly enough.
So back in my day, and I'm really old, you've probably already gathered, back in my day, the problem was always the man in the van, right? You always, that's where, it doesn't matter how clever you are and how technically minded you are, at the end of the day, it's the man in the van, right? Is that still the case? I mean, we're talking about automating workflow, but until we get robots delivering, which may well happen, Is that where the problem now sits? It's just literally volume going through a very thin pipe.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but automation in terms of the workflow, your ability to give that driver a problem has got better.
Yes, absolutely.
Matthew, what about your experience?
For us, I mean, automation really started from when the company was first founded. So when Instant Print was first founded in 2009 or 2010, James, one of our founders, kind of knew from the get-go that automation was really going to be key to being able to deliver print in a really fast turnaround. So I think very early on, James made the decision to start investing into focused products and implementing it in our websites and in our studio departments. I kind of took over around about that time after he'd finished implementing it throughout those different departments. And then we kind of started driving it out to the rest of the areas of the business. So we started moving into production and started looking at production. How can we automate their processes using Switch and different in-house tools that we build? Again, then leading on to looking at applications like 𝐁𝐨𝐴 Labs Phoenix, or 𝐿𝐴 as it is now, and moving further bottlenecks in production. So as we've grown as a company, and as time's gone on, we've gradually pushed automation throughout the business and worked it further down the chain to the point where we're pretty much automated throughout the whole business now.
And you're a relatively new business then, founded in 09-10.
Yeah.
So these problems, to a certain extent, went new problems to you. There were ones that you were already aware of and you just set about solving them.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think the same with James, he kind of knew that was kind of pivotal to being able to deliver print in a fast turnaround, that we need to be automated and constantly developing cutting edge tech.
So at the other end of the spectrum then, Roger, F.E. Burman, not the youngest company in the world, still have paper delivered by horseback, I believe, according to Addy. He's riding it, I believe. These problems came at you rather than you were aware of them when you started. How has that sort of led? How has automation helped your business?
It's sort of twofold with the automation and web to print. Many years ago, we used to develop our own systems in-house for clients, web to print. But what we found, and no offense to any developers in the room, they are hard to lock down. And the turnover for developers was pretty high. And once you've got a project on the go and another developer comes in, they often don't want to carry on working on someone else's work. And you're almost starting again. So something like Infigo and Switch is perfect solutions.
It's always nice when somebody says with all due respect, because you know they're about to get a slagging, so that's good. What would you say, all three of you, really, were the obvious opportunities that an automated workflow allowed, the low-hanging fruit, if you like, that allowed you to access straight away and prove the reason? Roger, do you want to go first on that? What did you see?
Yeah, sure. So we had existing clients and customers who we had platforms for. Maintaining, updating, managing those systems took a lot of time and resources. Having that problem shifted to someone else, it releases us to get other things done, look after our clients in a better fashion. Yeah.
Guys?
I'd say for us, Studio and Pre-Press was the easy low-hanging fruit for us. With a lot of our web kind of stuff, it's quite heavily tied into development pipelines and deployments. With our internal studio teams, we were quite free to build as and what we needed to meet their requirements.
Excellent.
Yeah, as well for us, it was the pre-press side of things, but I think rather than looking at it as kind of a black and white, automated versus not automated, it's more automating parts of that process that really helped. So we used to spend a whole load of time making proof sheets manually and typing stuff on there. So just having that process automatic sped a lot of things up. Also, tons of time spent downloading artworks and renaming them and putting them in folders and all of that stuff that doesn't take any skill. If you automate that stuff, you can still use your designer skills for certain files.
So, typically when people pass the driving test, they don't go straight out and buy a McLaren. They usually work up to that at some point, hopefully. What you're saying is it's not necessary to suddenly go out and get everything you need. It's better to start by seeing what do you need and what do you need it for, more important. This is the classic why question, isn't it? So when you look at these, and this is for all three of you, are there elements that automation really benefits your business, rather than thinking we're entirely automated but we don't use any of that? Matthew?
Can you just say the question again, sorry?
I wish I could remember it. Basically, can you semi-automate and see the benefits in order to, because it's a huge investment.
Yeah.
Well, it's an investment, but before you buy it all, can you buy a bit of it and see that it works to generate the evidence?
Yeah, I would say so. For example, like Switch would be a good example of that, where initially we didn't buy all the different modules through, we just didn't integrate what we needed at the time. And as time's gone along, we've needed to add more and more onto it. We bought more licenses, bought more modules. So yeah, I think with these kinds of solutions, you can start with the bare bones, and then as you start learning how to integrate it and implement it, you can start adding more onto that.
Because I've said for a long time, Roger, that modern print companies are tech companies that do print, but they don't see themselves as that. So with the modular approach that Matthew's just recommended, would you say that's the best way to almost find your way into that automated workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a classic example, and I hope it's not just us, but you'll find that a customer might send a quote in or a PDF for you to have a look at. An account handler could be busy. They have a lot of things to take care of, and that customer, they might not respond to them for a couple of hours, sometimes even a day. You throw that at something like Switch, you can pre-flight it, let the customer check it and approve it, and then move it on down the line to production.
So that's a really interesting point, actually, and we've had a question come in about best practice. So that's a perfect link into it. What type of person drives your automation projects and why? Sam, you get that one.
I'm the one driving our automation project, and I think because I've worked in pre-press basically since I started there, we've always had pit stop, and I've just found I could find ways to do things quicker. So that kind of naturally just grew into wanting to get hold of Switch and put things in that way. But for us, because we produce such a wide range of different types of products, and every job is so different, then it's not really, there's not really an out-of-the-box solution for pre-flights and that stuff. So I think having somebody in-house that can build those actions and pre-flights and flows and things, that's been quite important for us.
Is there a need, would you say, Matthew, to have somebody dedicated to that work rather than a room full of people all denying it's any of their responsibility?
I would say so, yeah. I think you need somebody here to drive it forward and want to learn about it, how different ways the tech can be implemented as well. So.
Do you think that helps a business like yours, especially a young business like yours, almost learn backwards?
Yeah, I would agree so. So, I mean, I come from, similar to Sam, did a graphic design degree, got hired at Bluetree to be an art worker, and kind of learned development back from there. So Switch has kind of been the jumping point for me to become a developer really in the end. So start very basic, building flows, and from there start doing scripting and development, and now working with internal systems as well. So yeah, I think it's something like you can learn backwards from it.
Yeah, good. By the way, if anybody's got any questions at any point, just stick your hand up old-fashioned way.
Richard, when you go sec, I've got a couple.
Oh, Dougie's got a question.
So guys, I get asked all the time, as a leading innovator of technology, not me personally, by the way. What are the challenges? What are customers asking? Maybe to you guys, you've all been in different stages, I would guess, of automation. What is your challenge tomorrow, and what do you see the challenge over the next 6 months for the business? And out of curiosity, where do you go to get inspiration and help with some of those challenges? Maybe start with Roger. What's your big challenge now? Don't say Infigo's in trouble.
Oh, you pass it on then. No, I will use you as an example, but it's a good thing, because although we can have a storefront up and running for a new customer in an hour or so, sometimes even less, every customer is different, and even though you have tools to create a workflow for that individual customer, they still want things that are unique, and being able to reach out to your help team as well has been great, because a lot of the things that we've put forward have bared fruit, and they've actually come through as new parts of Infigo when you guys release the updates. So that's been great. And we've been able to consistently keep our customers happy in that manner.
Okay. And for the other guys?
I'd say for us, just making sure we're routing jobs and producing jobs for our factory as optimally as we can. I mean, we're pretty optimal at the moment, but it's making sure we're always pushing forward and making sure jobs are getting through the factory quicker and quicker, and as optimised and least cost as possible.
Sam?
In terms of challenges that are coming more from the customers than internal ones, which there's plenty to be getting on with, but on the customer side of things, it's really proofing is a big one at the moment. So
Proofing, would you say?
yes, we've got a lot of customers who want to they want to have multiple people involved in the approval process. So they might have one person who has the ultimate responsibility of saying that's good to go, but they want to send it to another 5 or 6 email addresses, and they all have to give their sign off and make their comments. And you might also have several stages, so it might go to some people first, some people next, and then have an internal approval as well. At the moment, it's kind of a flurry of emails. So the next big thing for us is to try and improve that proofing process for the customers, and give them a tool where they can, really zoom in and have a look at the files properly and make an informed approval.
Excellent. So I'm going to just push this out to the guys. If anybody's willing, don't be frightened. Over to you, sir. Just introduce yourself.
Good morning, Paul Sherfield, Missing Horse Consultancy. How do you instruct your clients, support your clients on how they should supply files into your automated system?
So we have a set of artwork guidelines which are really sort of very basic. I think it's difficult to, especially when you produce a really wide range of different products, to give a too detailed a kind of artwork guideline, but we find that really helps. Just we've got a PDF preset that we share with our customers to try and make sure things are kind of within the ballpark, and there's some guidelines that they follow. But we use our pre-flight to really check things in depth, and if we have to, we'll go back, and we've had some customers come in and talk to us on site to discuss how they're supplying the files, and they've actually, many of them have been really open to doing that.
Roger?
Only going to echo what he's just said. Initial conversation with clients when we're setting up workflows is to verify exactly what type of files and what settings they're using, and we dictate those. If it's something that's going to go through Switch, most of the time that's going to be a PDF, and we'd either supply them a template or a pre-flight profile, which they would use for their files. And then if it's something that's going to go into a storefront on Infigo, we're building that, so we have control over it.
Matthew, anything to add?
Yeah, kind of similar for us really. So we have our templates that we provide on all of our websites to customers. We have our online proofing system which flags up resolution issues, colour issues, etc. And then we also, to support that, we also have our art working teams which are quite customer facing. So they're always speaking to customers if they've got any issues with our work to help along the way with that. So.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome, guys. So just there was a couple of other hands that went up there. Any other questions from the floor as yet? Hi.
You're doing a great job, Doug. Look at that. He moves like the wind. It's impressive. Yeah.
Hi guys, Ian Story from Jeff Neal Group. Just wanted to see if you've had any experience and successes with doing automation with kind of offline processes, so outside the standard workflows, like with accounts departments or other areas in the business where people have said, oh, can you help with this?
Non-standard operating procedure, I believe, is that sort of known as? See, they're so optimal. No. We don't do that sort of shit. No.
We have a number of workflows that cater for offline work. Some things that are received via FTP and then pushed to a designator designated printer or proofing device. Could you elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, an example I had was it's where you wander around and you ask people, and I had the accounts department were receiving invoices for couriers, which could be 300 entries long, and they were going down and they were ticking each one off individually, and I was saying, well, hang on a minute, let's have it as a CSV and do the whole thing automatically. But it's whether you ask, whether anybody's asking the questions, and has somebody said, oh, hang on a minute, why are you doing this? Why? Yeah, there's a switch flow that can automate that.
So I'm going to ask a question back to you on that point, and I think what you've just described is the difference between, which is why these two gentlemen are sitting there looking, what the hell are you talking about? Because they would never have done it that way in the first place. And the wandering around and asking people is the way that we all used to do it back in the good old days. So somewhere in between those two things is where the truth lies, I would imagine, from an automated perspective. And you never know you need something until you need it. And ultimately you do the quickest solution rather than the best, normally, because you need that problem solving today. But I think what we're seeing and hearing from these guys, especially today, is that finding your way into automated workflow actually means that you don't have to answer all the questions on day one, but they almost start to answer themselves. And you find out doing things way much better as a consequence rather than as a reason. So the accounts point is a really good one, because it's a function that could be sped up. But that's the same of everything that with automated print.
Yes, but lots of people don't ask questions.
That's a different problem.
Well,
that's a communications problem. We're moving on to C words in a minute.
You can't offer a solution if there's not a problem.
Agreed, but it's the classic thing: is if you don't ask.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you about
that. Yeah, but very often people don't ask.
No.
It's the job of the people, who know the system to say, oh, hang on a minute, why don't we do this? But very often these things are hidden away. Or the accounts department is their own world of spreadsheets, and they do their own thing.
It's a great question, by the way, because it's something that comes up a lot. Because they're not necessarily, people go, right, can automate artwork, because that's what people look at first. We did a switch workflow in a customer in Newcastle, which was taking file names and removing file names out because there was a guy sat there extrapolating file names and things like that. And something I'm going to throw over to the guys in a minute. I think it's really important within the organisation, within the business, to put some sort of review strategy within the company. And that is, right, what are we doing, what's taking a long time, and et cetera, and then building up some business cases that say, right, well, if something's taken more than a day or more than half a day, whatever it is, or it's taken somebody X amount of time, then we will invest X amount of time to then look at that workflow on seeing if it's automated, because the worst thing you can do with workflow is try and automate things, and these guys will probably echo this as just automate it for the sake of doing that. But if you've got an example there where you're getting a few hundred in, it depends, is it every week, is it every day? And if it every day, and that's maybe taking a couple of days, then investing a couple of grand or whatever it may be, if you're an existing Switch user, to read a CSV, take that data, create an XML file, and then ingest it into a ERP or reporting system, then that is something that you should definitely do. But I think it's a really important point, and I'm going to sort of switch that to another question to these guys, is what do you, one of the, and I'll be covering on a discussion later, is often what happens with workflow and technology, including in my business as well, is we automate things and we sit there very happy and very cheery. Oh, I automated that, how fantastic. But one of the things that really misses is that automation will sit there for years. And actually that automation becomes out of date because you've then got automations to catch up of the failings of what's maybe not happening. What are you guys doing within your organizations to review that? How often would that happen? How do you manage that sort of structure and process? Because technology is moving quicker, the requirements are changing regularly and stuff like that. So maybe to yourself, Sam, have you got any regulatory reviews with, well, not regulatory, sorry, but regular reviews?
So we have a kind of bi-weekly catch-up on the sort of pre-press workflow automation stuff, but there is also every week we're meeting to discuss the whole sort of technology side of the business and where that's going. So I think we started off with just pre-press, and at the same time we were doing all of that, we were implementing a new ERP system as well at the same time. But I think now we've got all these different systems and we're trying to see how that all fits together in the big picture. So we're having weekly reviews on that side of things. We've also got an external consultant who's helping us come in with a fresh, pair of eyes and bring some new ideas in.
Yeah, and how is that from a management perspective, investing in that? Because the other challenge I then get is, well, if I want to be able to regularly review it once a quarter, am I then going to put 5-10 grand in the budget to then get a consultant to regularly review that? What are the challenges around getting some sort of budget support? Because I imagine the consultants are amazing, but they can also add a cost to that process as well.
I think you've got to have a bit of trust. If you've started small and proven that the stuff you're doing is making a difference, it's a lot easier to
work in the ROI.
And that's the question, Dougie. I think where the risk of doing something, is it greater than the risk of doing nothing? Is the classical, and the reason why Apple sends you constant updates for your phone is for the same reason. They're constantly iterating. I say, you're a tech business that does print. If you're a tech business, iteration is the lifeblood. My question that's just come through on the phone actually for all three of you is, where are the rabbit holes in that? Because there's an awful lot of development that could happen, but should it? Have you come across any rabbit holes that you've accidentally fallen down? Matthew, you're smiling. That's tantamount to asking for the microphone.
I need a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Fine. That's fine. Sam?
I mean, one issue, obviously I'm building a lot of our workflows myself, but I do have holidays and things like that, so if something goes wrong, then that is always a bit of a concern. I think so. What we've started doing is spending a lot of time doing training sessions on how everything works, and really trying to bring other people into it as well, rather than just being with that knowledge. So I think we've learned a couple of lessons around that side of things, but I wouldn't say any rabbit holes from too much development.
And is that the discipline, do you think, Roger, or the necessary discipline when you are looking to automate, that you don't just run to the shiniest thing that you see first?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because there's a shiny new update doesn't mean you should do it.
Indeed.
Flow that worked yesterday doesn't work today, and you don't know why. It's probably an update that's been pushed out.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is I'll give that update maybe a week or two, or have an automation running on a completely different machine, update it there, make sure everything's okay before we push it out to our main systems.
Yeah, very wise. Matthew, you've had your 2-minute thinking time.
I guess mine would similarly be echoing what Sam was saying, really, where the automations historically fell under being my responsibility, and as I've grown it, it's become more of a technology fell more into our technology department rather than our pre-press department. It's been something where we're trying to get other developers involved in it and kind of push it forward. I guess kind of tying into your constant reviewing of stuff. That's kind of how we see it going forward, that we'd get our tech team more involved in it to make sure we're always making sure stuff's not falling out of date or any time. And again, similarly echoing what Roger said as well, we tend to, when a new upgrade comes out, we'll tend to give it a month or two just to make sure, keep our eye on the online forums and see if there's any reported issues, just to give us that peace of mind that when we do upgrade anything, that everything's going to be all good and not affect any production.
Yeah. Dougie?
Let's just add something there. With regards to these updates, it's not shining a negative light on anything, but one thing to keep in mind is sometimes the update is fine, and it just might be that one piece of software is not yet compatible with the current version, that's been updated, and that's all it can be. So you need to be pretty aware of your software versions, etc., things like that.
Square peg round holes and all that.
Anything else in yes?
There we are.
Do you find, and if you do, how do you deal with a scenario where in an automated environment, people can disengage from what they're doing and sort of switch off, so abdicate responsibility somehow in favour of the workflow. So computer says no syndrome.
Yeah, I can definitely see that from an extent. I mean, when I first started in our studio department in 2013, everything was very manual, and then as we've grown, the automation has become more and more check the artwork, approve it, check the artwork, approve it. And that's been something where, as we've grown to be more and more of an automated business, the studio teams have had to put in place more strict SOPs to make sure they're always checking for the right things and kind of not, even though the automation's there and it's benefiting them, not falling too much into an automated mindset of just scanning stuff through.
I would watch the film Wall-E. It's a cautionary tale, just so you know.
So back to you guys, and I'll come back out in a second for a couple more questions. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot for players that, believe it or not, still getting into both automation, web to print, and bringing systems together is that you lose touch with the customer. And I think it's almost on your point there, and this is a couple of points on this. So do you feel that by automating you lose touch with the customer and you become a step away from the customer by doing this?
I don't believe so personally, and it's twofold. Some customers, they don't want to talk to you on the phone, and they'd just rather things happen in the background and it's done. Something shows up at the end of the production line and they're happy. Some customers, they set up a workflow for them, and they love it, and they constantly hounding you.
So it's actually adding more value to the customer rather than detracting and putting them that one step behind.
Yeah, once they understand and they see how it works, how it benefits them and us, they're like, well, can't we do this? Or can we add this? So there's a lot more engagement once they understand the workflow.
Excellent,
I
thanks.
suspect the first step is the hardest.
Yeah, 100%. And guys, is there anything to add to those? Because you guys ultimately, and I mean this in the politest way, I know you do a lot more B2B stuff, but like faceless, and rather than the traditional salesperson going out to the door. So you're used to, it's always been a step away from the customer as such.
I mean, the automation from a customer kind of point of view, they don't really see it. They just get their orders quickly. So for us, it really benefits them. And it allows customer service studio teams to focus more on providing better service to them and adding value to them. Yeah, excellent. And anything to add on that, Sam?
So we're generally moving more in the direction of working directly with customers. We don't have a huge amount of online ordering by the customer. We do have a few that will log into our ERP and create their own orders. But even when they do that, they're interacting a lot with our CSRs, mostly because most of what we produce is really bespoke and really custom. But in terms of the difference automation has made, it's really getting those proofs back as fast as they do has really improved the experience for them.
No, that's brilliant. So one of the things that my point of feeling feedback from when we were discussing this is my business. We obviously are a pure tech company, and one of the things that I've definitely found, and there's always, I won't mention Greg Young's name over there, that's standing over there.
You just did.
And we had a challenge, ongoing challenges is the face of how we deal with customers and things like that. And we talked about many things about providing more training tools that were maybe not delivered by someone. And there was always that fear of, well, if I'm not doing that personal training course or delivering that, then I'm taking away the value the customer gets. And definitely what we have found, we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years and almost turned it on its head, and we've found better interaction because there's more availability. So the customers that need that more bespoke training and more that deeper information, you can spend more time having that conversation rather than fixing a file and make sure that the file has come. And we're also looking at some technology now that automates on how you guys are feeling using our software. So we can almost foresight the feedback that we're going to get from our customers way ahead of time. So if people are using it and things like that. I hear there's a good ROI in that, is there, Greg? So yeah, we continually look at that ourselves. But I think, as you said, Richard, it's about taking that jump, and that jump is never too late. We hear it a lot that that ship has sailed, but absolutely not. I think it's something continual that need to keep going.
So here's a question that's just come in on this point, actually, which is really quite interesting, because it's the continuation, of course, of these businesses. With the labour shortage as it is and the need to attract the younger generation, do you think having automated solutions will help engage with them, and why? Roger.
Yes.
Okay, correct. Next one. Is that it? You're not sure? Okay, fine. Matthew.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, you represent the irritating youth, shall we say, in the room. Are you more engaged with the print industry because of the tech focus?
Yeah, I would say so. So, I mean, like I said, I came from a graphic design background, started working in the studio department, and that was the thing that really excited me when I was given a pit stop and then kind of shown switch. It kind of made me want to stay with the business and start pushing that forward. So I think it is a good drive, and we've seen it from a lot of the developers that we've got in our departments as well. They kind of didn't know we've got this kind of technology, or it kind of sat and it's kind of like grey area. No one really knew what it was, and now we're getting more and more people interested in it, and it's kind of opening up how people think of what we can implement and develop.
I mean, it's a perennial problem, isn't it, Sam? That sons don't want to follow fathers, daughters don't want to follow mothers into the print industry, but they might want to follow them into the tech industry.
I mean, certainly the tech side of it that keeps me sort of interested, really. But it's I think the entry point is easier now as well. It's not such a steep learning curve. If you in terms of pre-press and stuff years back, then the level of knowledge you have to have is insane compared to what it is now. But also with some of the things you can do with modern ERP systems and things, raising orders is now, for us, it's 10 times easier than it was before, because everything's been thought of. There's rules in place. You can't really do things wrong so much. So there's kind of less pitfalls, and it's easier to get started. And
I think the fear is that there'll be more pitfalls, and that's people's investment decision, isn't it? Oh, well, it sounds difficult, but it isn't. And it's quite intuitive in many ways, isn't it? Really. And do you find that when new customers sort of make that decision, that they go, why didn't we do this sooner?
Oh no, 100%. I think there's to add a point, and I'll come back to that. I think some of the big changes that we're going to see in marketing has been around forever, but metrics have always ruled for the last couple of years. But it's around the brand as well. So is how do we attract new talent into the business? I think we have to look at how we represent ourselves to the outside world. I guarantee that there's probably one or two in the room that lets customers know they have a HP 6000 or a Xerox 5100 or whatever they are these days.
Your depth of knowledge, Dougie, is astonishing.
And Speedmaster XL
the shiny
5500. But very few will talk about some of the technology challenges they've solved for their customers, how much they've invested in their staff. And I think as an organisation representing the print world, we have so much more greater opportunity for some of these guys, because how do I compete when I'm going to go in a tech company or a printer? Well, I don't want to go and work for a printer. And it's about, as you said a couple of times, Richard, that we're actually technology businesses that are wrapped around hardware and software. And the variety that we can give to some of these young individuals is huge. But it's all about how we position our brand and that information within inside that brand.
And that's
as well.
not just workforce, of course, that's customer as well.
Well, you will reflect them, because if you reflect outwardly to encourage new people within the business, then customers are going to go on your website and see that you solved these challenges. And we're just, how do we present those? How do we talk about them? How do we solutionize that? We maybe can't represent customer names, but there's many, many good ways. And I think that those that represent themselves much better and talk about that, whether it be video and case studies and really push that into the brand, will benefit hugely from from that sort of thing.
Yeah, agreed. We've got time for a couple more questions and also to watch Dougie run around the room one more time. So,
Let's do it.
Oh, he's gone near. Oh,
No,
that's cheating.
no, I'll tell you what, I'll get fit. Here we go.
Off you go, off you go.
Woohoo.
5 to 1 the field.
Hi guys, I'm Dan from Rapidity. I just wanted to ask about how you handle your sort of pre-press automation, because I often wonder if we're too granular in what we try and offer per customer, per regular job kind of thing, because it seems that we have so many different flows and hot folders and whatnot. When pre-press are saying, oh, we need this, we need that, I just wanted some insight into how you guys handle it if you're not that granular, if you have like an oversight kind of thing that just does stuff more vaguely.
So what we tend to do, if it's not a PDF, it goes to the studio. So if it's an InDesign document that needs proper checking, have a look at the layers, have a look at masks, things like that, and then the studio can handle that. Oftentimes you'll get PDFs that have spot colors or dodgy elements in them, and the flows will pick those sort of things up, let us know, let the customer know. But yeah, with regards to other types of work, there is still a lot of artwork that gets handled by someone.
Guys?
We have in our ERP system, we have 4,000 plus individual products, which I think sounds a bit similar to what you're describing. Right from the start, when we were implementing the ERP, I was looking at the options that we were putting in there, the different fields and the different drop-down options, and I was thinking we need to do this in a way that we can break down when we come to automate it. So I kind of divided all of the types of jobs we're doing into 4 or 5 different categories. So if it's on a PVC and it's got pockets and hems and stuff, that will go down one. That will be one pre-flight profile, and then all of the finishing will be variables. Smart variables, all coming directly from the ERP into Switch. We also, so if we might have fabrics with CADA edging, that will be a different pre-flight profile. And I've broken it, all of these different things just down into 4 or 5 profiles, and it's so much easier to manage that way than trying to have a profile for every product.
I wonder in a way with your question whether the way that you described it is a hangover of legacy approach, and it's behavioural, isn't it, rather than necessary.
And
That's the
nobody
way we've
wants to
always
get
done
rid
it.
of that profile.
Well, there we go,
There might
yeah.
be that customer one day that ring up.
Because we've used Pitstop for so long, our studio guys know it very well. So they have a huge back catalogue of all of these profiles they've made themselves and everything. And now they've got to the point where they don't want to run the profile themselves. They want to drop it in a folder and it run it, do everything that they used to do, so they can do other stuff, or maybe not. But that's where we are. You're exactly right. We're coming from legacy rather than setting up automation at foremost.
If you did it today, if you started from scratch today, you wouldn't do it that way.
Exactly, I'd do more what Sam suggested.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Time for one more question.
Chris. Matt, have you got anything to add to that point before we?
Yeah, it was similar to what Sam said, really. When we started really ramping up building automation, we made everything as variable as possible. So rather than having a different flow for different products, we broke everything down so it's all variable driven. So if we launch a new product, we don't have to worry about building a new flow necessarily. Just kind of the variables get passed in and it gets pre-flighted correctly. So
cool.
We on that note, I'd be interested to see an honest hands up in the air. Who would rather take the job and the money first, fix the problem later? Oh.
That was remarkably quick.
Right, okay, let me do that again, honestly. No, thank you very much. Great question, Dan. Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Smith from BCQ Group. So my question is around the people. So when you've embarked on a automation project to automate a process or a department, have you found that people have felt threatened and therefore put roadblocks in the way? And if so, what are your strategies around bringing people with you?
The legacy mindset, how do you get over it?
yeah, we've definitely seen that in various parts of the business when we start looking at automation, but I think really just explaining what we're trying to do and how we're trying to make their lives easier has been one of the main things for us. So really reassuring whoever we're working with that we're not trying to replace them, we're trying to enhance their jobs and make them more productive.
Again, just another echo. We have that same issue at Burman's. We have part of the studio who are legacy people. They like doing the artwork. They don't want the artwork taken away from them. It's difficult, but they have to understand it's not there to replace them. It's there to aid and help. What we find is outside of the studio, the art workers and the creatives, it's the account handlers and management who are more using the workflows than anything. So a lot of the mundane, trivial jobs tend to not get seen anymore, and they have more time to spend on more creative work.
I think the problem is in a lot of cases people hear the word automation and what they hear is redundancy. And it's not the same thing, but because they've stopped listening, you don't get to the explanation, and it's the hardest thing. Sam, I guess with the younger companies, you don't have that same sort of legacy hangover. I mean, they'll always be the oldest person, but in your world, they're still quite irritatingly young.
We've got some people that have been, I think, our studio manager's been at Macroft 29 years, something like that now. So we've got, he's one of the most forward-thinking people there. But you've got a whole range of different people, and so an example that's kind of relevant to your question. We're about to undergo a massive overhaul of how scheduling connects with imposition, ripping, and automation. We're trying to get this all tied together nicely with our ERP so that we can lights out automate the whole pre-press workflow. But that's obviously, when you start talking about scheduling and things like that, production managers tend to get a little bit scared. So what we've done is we've set up a kind of working group, so all of the production managers all together, and I've set out, look, this is what we're planning to do, this is how it will benefit you and the business, and do you have any suggestions? And they've actually really bought into the process, whereas before they were quite worried about it. But I think if you involve people in the project, then they take a bit of ownership, and it just makes things go a whole lot smoother.
I think that's a great point, Sam, and certainly Sam and Chris, I've obviously been involved in one or two of these, and not just in Infigo, my Xerox days and stuff. We brought in technology that wiped out different things. I think it's about sharing a journey and a strategy from the top down, and not because often what happens is somebody will go to a show or somebody will go somewhere, buy a bit of technology, you'll then get it land on your desk, and you're then told to go and then implement that. And it's about trying to make that, and working with the directors and the senior execs in the business to actually talk about the wider business, the value and the reasons for doing that, and sharing that a bit earlier, rather than, oh, by the way, on Monday we're going to be getting rid of you because we've now got these pre-flight profiles and we've got this in focus system. So I think it's about bringing people on that journey, and the business having a wider strategy for automation and how that fits within the business, because one of the things that I see commonly is there is zero strategy within each business of how there's an idea of how we can go and sell, and there's a great sales strategy, but actually important with the business is making sure that you've got a digital strategy, you've got an automation piece, and putting that into the overall journey for the business. So trying to get the execs and bringing these people, as is being said, bringing them on that journey much earlier on. So thanks very much, great. And I've got one question.
Yep. What time are the boxes coming out, Dee? That's my question.
Thank you. Sorry, putting you guys on the spot here. What would you think is your relationship with your suppliers? Do they respond to you quickly? And how can you, talking about earlier on, and how can you improve that engagement?
It's getting worse out of it. There's a bit more. So what is the relationship like with the suppliers, guys? Who wants to pick that up first, Sam?
Roger's just turned his microphone off, by the way.
We'll leave Roger. Right, go Matt.
Yeah. I can't speak highly enough about working with Tilly Labs, Askam, and Focus. They've always been there for us, and we're always pushing them forward with what functionality we want to see in the software going forward as well. And they're always open to listening to our ideas, really. So, yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, I can echo echo those feelings. Really, it's been fantastic support from resellers, and also events like this and various other events I've been to. It's really good having FaceTime with the guys from Infocus and Tilly Labs. Let's go now. But,
Yeah, we need to pass that memo around, don't we? Roger, you are not legally obliged to answer the question.
Oh, good. Okay. No, I have a great relationship with a lot of the guys at Infigo and Infocus. I think as suppliers, they're really good at getting back to you, really good at helping you when you run into issues. So I can't speak more highly of them.
I guess I'm going to push this question back to Addy because I like to challenge him. Well, so Addy, great question. What do you expect? But I guess what could as a vendor, not just me, but what across your vendors, what things would add more value to your business? What could we do better to enable you guys to have more success within your business?
Well, you sort of mentioned it a bit earlier on. It's actually engaging with these guys who are the cold front. I think sometimes we do come across issues where, like developing software, where the impossible is asked for, and they want it yesterday. And we reach out to you guys, and it's going to be on your next planning stage. So sometimes we have an issue with time there. So we could improve on it. Yeah. Sorry. If you're developing software, that's so if that could be improved a bit, that would be cool. There's a challenge now among some now absorbing more costs because we're not taking them off. Have to take them in. How we leverage that to our customers. Difficult. It's probably because we don't sell it good. There's two challenges.
So final word, gentlemen, before we break.
Thanks,
really,
Addy.
Really just your final thoughts as customers from today. What would be the one piece of salient advice that you could offer anybody that's sitting out there today making a decision about automation? What's the one thing that you could say to them to encourage them to do so? Who wants to take that, Sam?
Get on with it, really.
Get on with it.
It's you can. It's not as scary as a lot of people make it out to be. And like I was saying before, it's not a black and white kind of full automation or no automation. You can start small, build it, and before you know it, you'll be doing things you didn't think were possible.
Roger?
Exactly that. I'd say start small, and in no time at all, you'll realise that you can scale up. And get a lot of things done within your company, within your workflow, your processes that you had no idea that you could just automate.
Matthew?
Kind of similar. Start small. It's not as scary as you think it is. I mean, even some of the stuff like scripting, it's never been easy to learn like programming nowadays. Going back probably like 5 or so years, it seemed really scary to me, but now the training out there is amazing.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Please give them a big round of applause. Sam, Matthew and Roger.
Thanks, Jim.